Good evening. How are you all tonight? As you can see, we're missing a number of counselors. Counselor Farrington-Posner, Counselor Kadim, Counselor Hardin, Counselor Can. We're missing Ms. Antezo, who fell ill yesterday, unfortunately. She is doing better, but not well enough to be here presently, and Ms. Manis. So right now, we don't have a quorum. We need 6 counselors to have what's called a quorum in order to conduct business. There's only one thing that we can do without a quorum, and that is to announce the time of the next meeting. Just wait a second. If we were to do that, I have comments during this non-meeting that I would like to make and that the attorney, Brian Leclerc, one of our town attorneys, would like to make. So I would encourage you to stay around, okay? And we do appreciate the involvement and the advocacy that we have been witnessing. Okay, thank you. So Councilman Hardin is here, so now we are short 5 council persons, so we still don't have a quorum. The mayor doesn't count in this respect. So, because there are room constraints to think of, tomorrow night we can have a room here, and if we have overflow, Stratford High School is available. So I would accept, this is the only piece of business that we can do without the quorum, I would accept a motion to adjourn until tomorrow at 7:30. I'm sorry. No, at Stratford High School. It won't be here. It will be at Stratford High School auditorium. Okay? Mr. Chase? Do you have any questions? Do you want to have discussion
before
about
you move,
that?
yeah, I do have something else. But if Ms. Santezo is still ill, we still won't have enough votes to pass the budget. Wouldn't it be wiser to get a determination from her when she expects to return?
Yeah. There would be enough votes if there's only one council person missing, because you need 9 votes to pass, 6 votes to pass a budget, not 9. So technically, there are enough votes. It is very difficult to find a night when absolutely everybody is available, and I wish that we had passed a budget during our regularly scheduled council meetings.
But not to debate this with you, Madam Chairman, but I don't think votes calling for a 2.75 increase to the school board budget are going to change. So you're going to need Ms. Antezo, if there's any chance of the side that's supporting a zero-based budget for Board of Ed passing it.
Yes, I understand. It's difficult to get all 10 people together, and I know that in the future there are some of us who will have other constraints on time also. So I hope that we can make progress even if we don't have a vote, but certainly the new proposal from Can and Phillips has not even been
Vetted.
Yeah, vetted. So we do need to at least have that sort of progress. So
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Chair?
Yes, Mr. Hardin.
If I may, really quickly, I just received this. Before we decide to go to recess or convene another day, I just want to thank all the students for putting this together and collecting all the signatures. On your part, this shows a lot of dedication and support for the education system. And I just don't want to go forth without recognizing all of the signatures in this letter here, and I appreciate all the hard work that has went forth. And so again, your voice has not fallen on deaf ears, and I continue to support the Board of Ed. Thank you.
if there is a motion to adjourn until tomorrow at 7:30 at the Stratford High School auditorium, then we can have a further discussion, this would be a non-meeting. Okay, is there such a motion, please?
Well, we can't pass it anyway. You want a quorum. You can't
So moved, Madam
vote
Chairman.
on this, you get on a quorum.
No, this is the only thing you can have a vote on without the quorum, is when to reconvene.
Second.
So there's so moved in the second, okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 No.
Okay, so the vote passed 4-1, so we will be meeting tomorrow in the Stratford High School auditorium. That being said, I'd like to call on Brian Leclerc. Oh, I'm sorry, I'd like to call on Mr. Chase.
Thank you, Madam
Okay.
Chairman. Before our meeting started, some of the students from Bunnell High School approached me, indicating that within a few hours they were able to collect 500 signatures, and asked if I would read their letter that's addressed to the entire council. I happily agreed, and I will make this quick. Again, this is a letter signed by over 500 students from Bunnell High School. They did this on their own without any prompting, and therefore, we, the undersigned students of Bunnell High School, wish to convey the need for the council to vote yes on the budget increase for the Board of Education. We have taken it upon ourselves to convey our concern and wish to make our voices heard without prompting by any adult or authority figure. We, the undersigned, that is, we, the undersigned, we understand that this decision does not directly address continued existence of extracurricular activities. However, the budget cuts would have a major impact on the funding they would receive. It is imperative that we preserve the extracurriculars that have immense meaning to us and share our passion for them with the younger generation. The potential budget cuts threaten to funding to activities that let us enjoy our youth, which was addressed in multiple instances during last night's meeting, particularly by Councilman Hardin. Students play sports like football, basketball, and softball, to name a few, perform in choirs, bands, plays, gain exposure to worldly issues like the work of the Amnesty International, Kindness Club, and are able to pursue new and practical passions through HOSA, STEM, and TSA, and a plethora of others. All through school-funded and organized programs. This allows them to bond with upperclassmen and underclassmen, as well as providing them the opportunity to explore new career options and become well-rounded individuals. These extracurriculars are incredibly important to a number of people, and our voices should be heard when you consider the direction in which our futures will move, which is dependent upon the results of this vote. The majority of the students who attended the meeting last night were high school seniors who had no obligation to make an appearance, which conveys that they wish to pass their passion on to both students who will be entering high school doors for the first time next September, and the students who will take over clubs, activities, and teams once the seniors have officially graduated. This should communicate to everyone on the council just how much these organizations mean to students, and eliminating the vital portion of the budget which would fund these activities will cause a massive upset, not just by the students who no longer have the opportunities they were once exposed to, but by the teachers and employees who would suffer through job loss. Full-day kindergarten and about 33 teaching positions will be cut if this budget passes. It is unfair to eliminate these positions when they are so desperately needed. Elementary music education will be one of the first programs and the first teaching positions to be eradicated under the jurisdiction of the proposed budget cuts. And this will be detrimental to children's education. Studies have shown that regardless of the socioeconomic status of our school district students, the study was done among third graders who participated in high-quality music programs, received better scores on both reading and spelling tests. Full-day kindergarten is a necessary part of the school district and is incredibly beneficial to the growth in students. According to the NEA, Longitudinal data demonstrated that children in full-day kindergarten class show greater reading and mathematics achievements gained than those in half-day classes. Increasing the budget will continue to allow the current levels of academic achievement and success within Stratford's public schools. We implore the council who are unsure of which way to vote, or those who previously felt that they could not support a budget increase of 2.75 to support the future of education in our school district, along with the passion and creativity within young minds. Adopting this budget will provide necessary funding to keep the interest of students and the jobs of up to 33 people alive. We thank you for taking the time to read this letter and for taking our ideals into account while you're making your decision tonight. Again, this was signed by over 500 students, actually 500, and looks like 569 students. I commend you on your letter. Since I gathered most of these students might be seniors and therefore might be 18, I'd also urge you to register to vote.
Hey, I'd like to call on Attorney Brian LeClaire to explain where we are in the process and why we are here tonight and why we will be at Stratford High tomorrow night. And so, Brian?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Where you are in the process, the mayor has submitted a proposed budget that is on the agenda of the meeting that you began last week, on Monday evening of last week, 8 days ago. And it's in the form of an ordinance, as is required under your charter. The ordinance is to approve a budget of expenses and revenues, and also to set a mill rate. You are meeting because your charter in section 6.2.2 requires this council to pass a budget no later than May 12th, which it failed to do after 2 meetings last week, plus a Thursday meeting that could not go forward because you lacked a quorum at Thursday's meeting on the 11th, as you know. You reconvened to last night. There is still no budget ordinance approved. And you need to do that because your fiscal year, as you know, ends June 30th, and your charter requires you to have done this by last Friday. What you need to do is get your budget passed, the ordinance approved, and the mill rate set soon for several reasons. One is that both the Connecticut statutes and your charter have provisions for what happens if you do not have a budget approved by July 1st when the new fiscal year begins, and that includes the council and mayor having to make temporary appropriations on a monthly basis, but those appropriations are only for necessary expenses of the town. You'll also have to make a decision regarding tax bills, what amount to send out in the tax bills, which need to be prepared. Significantly, all expenses made after July 1st are limited to the prior year's budget. So you'll have to deal with a situation where you may have contracts calling for increases or new items in the budget. You are limited to a maximum of the amount of money that you are spending in the current year, the fiscal year that's ending. So that will lead most likely to layoffs, shutdowns, or the elimination of events or activities or expenses from the budget. Also significant is the town is not allowed to borrow after July 1st except with notes that are payable within the year. So the town cannot enter into any long-term borrowing if they don't have a budget, meaning they can only issue short-term notes for current year's expenses. They can't enter into any multi-year notes for buildings, leases of vehicles, equipment, and other expenses like that. So those are some of the ramifications if you don't approve a budget.
Mr. LeClaire, can you tell us what that would mean to the Stratford High School project, please?
Well, if there's funding that is approved, that would stay in place. If there's additional funding that needs to be approved, I think that may be problematic because of the limitations on borrowing restricted to one-year notes. Surely that would affect the rate, assuming you're even able to get a one-year note. The other issue is if you have to begin paying additional expenses for certain projects, you may not have the money in the budget without making significant cuts to fund those items because, again, you're limited on the prior fiscal year's budget amount until you approve a budget.
And can you tell me what the council person's duty is at this point?
Well, the council is mandated to follow the charter of the town, and section 2.2.2 is entitled Budget Appropriations, and it states the council shall annually pass an appropriation ordinance not later than May 12th, which ordinance shall be based on a budget submitted by the mayor. The appropriations made in such ordinance and the budget submitted by the mayor shall provide for the full fiscal year of the town. So that's a shall, that's not a may, that's a requirement. It's a mandate to council members. They are, pursuant to the charter, required to pass an appropriation ordinance not later than May 12th, which date they missed last Friday.
Okay. Are there any questions among the council for Mr. Leclerc? Mr. Chase?
Yeah, Brian, thank you for that explanation. It's unfortunate that we're missing 5 members, and they should hear that. If they show up tomorrow, I would ask that you repeat this dissertation, if you will. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. One thing that we do need to keep in mind going forward is the Stratford High School project. If Mr. Llewellyn perhaps can tell us, or the CAO could talk to us, I think Mr. Llewellyn, about the how much we will be borrowing roughly for that project and what the change in bond rating might mean.
Sure thing. So basically, there's actually a quick little piece of good news to report with regards to Stratford High School. Turner issued the draft guaranteed maximum price last night, and on a budget of $103.5 million, they're currently tracking the cost at $99.5 million. So the project right now is $4 million under budget. It's a total cost of $126 million and a 60-40 bond split with the state. 40% of that being responsible by the town of Stratford. And if construction were to start in June, which is anticipated, my guess would be that within a month or two, at that level of construction activity, we will probably run out of available bonded money within the town budget and have to probably go out for additional bonded funds, newly bonded monies in the first fiscal quarter of the next fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. So any
Madam Chair.
degrading of our bond rating would be very significant.
Yes, it wouldn't change the amount that we have to borrow, but would make that borrowing much more expensive.
So any budgetary tricks that don't fund to the actuarially recommended amounts in some of the contingency accounts and workman's comp would be looked at quite negatively by bond rating agencies.
Right, and that wouldn't just affect Stratford High, that would affect the town's ability to bond across the board for any purpose, because those bond rating agencies look at the status of the accounts across the board. It's not a project-specific review. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Young, did you?
Although I appreciate everybody giving their reports, I don't really know why we're doing this right now when we're going to have to do it over again tomorrow night when the full council is here.
People, it's just a non-meeting, so if people don't want to be here, they don't have to be. We're just discussing some of the issues. We're adjourned, technically. But Mr. Mayor, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Hardin first, please.
You know, Mr. Young, I feel like, you know, I understand what you're saying, there's no need, but there is a need, because there's a responsibility that's really important. Please. There's a responsibility that's really important, and there are some people that need to know what could happen if we don't get it together. I expect that there's probably going to be some people who are missing and may continue to go in reverse and prevent this town from moving forward. So it's important for us to know the details from the attorney's office to know what direction we're heading and what, you know, could cause this town to go backwards and fall apart, and people could lose their jobs and things of that nature. So I appreciate the information. It's valuable information. And so even though it may need to be restated when we all do meet together on tomorrow, but it's important for the ones that are here, that show dedication and show the need to want to move forward, hear it.
Okay. And finally, I think we'll end with Mr. Mayor, Mr. John Harkins. You wanted to say a few words.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for coming out this evening in support of the school budget. This is a big deal, and I thank the members that showed up this evening to show their commitment, not only taking their oath of office seriously, but their commitment to the town of Stratford. This is a big deal. The town charter is the foundation of our governing body here in Stratford. We have gone past the deadline of May 12th. There was plenty of time for debate, criticism, ideas, workshops. We've gone by that. I've never known a time where the town has ever been in this position. I can tell you this, I produced the budget on time. It's open for criticism, say what you want about it, pull it apart, but come up with ideas. And if you have to adjust it, that's fine, and have an open debate, a civil debate. Shouldn't resort to name-calling, accusations. You know, when people start calling somebody names, liar, or whatever it may be, that shows you that there is no substance or debate going on. It's you resort to a low level of communication. I respect everyone on this council. I'm always optimistic. I would hope that this council can get together and work together, settle their differences, and do their job. Govern the town of Stratford. It's that important. You take an oath of office to be here. I'm sorry Mitzi couldn't be here. I know she was ill. We hope she's well. I know she left the hospital this morning. You know, things happen where people get sick at times. But the reality is these are volunteers that ran for office, but they chose to run. And the hardest thing they have to do is pass a budget. And when I speak to the council members when they're first elected, I always tell them the first thing you do, or the hardest thing you're going to have to do is pass a budget. And the other thing is, I tell them that never let politics become personal, because when it does, it becomes destructive. And everyone suffers. And let me tell you something. Other people are watching. I'm glad everyone showed up this evening to actually witness your governing body, your town council, and myself run the town. I take it very seriously. But more importantly, I also take seriously what other people think of us from the outside, because they're reading the newspapers, they're watching this on live stream, or they're watching it being taped. And it's a reflection upon us as a community that we can't work together. I think we can do better. I can tell you this right now, gutting the Board of Ed, and, which is being talked about at 1.1 or 1.3 million, to me is a non-starter. Yes, everything's a compromise. I threw a number out of 2.35% as a benchmark to start discussion. Some want 2.75. I'm okay with that. But let's have that discussion. And you have to be flexible. So, you know, maybe we make sacrifices in one area to make up for another. And yes, taxes are important. It's the #1 issue in town, no question about it. You ask anyone, they'll always tell you my taxes are too high. However, the proposal that was made, which failed, actually was lower than my proposed tax increase, but fully funded education and then some above what I proposed. And that's okay, but we're not there yet. So I would hope that the council members can get together, have a discussion about what's a realistic compromise to get together to govern our town, but more importantly, to move forward and to fund education. So the 1.1.3 is a non-starter for me. I will veto that. I'm not going to allow people to wreck our education system and wreck our municipal side of government based on just trying to get to a zero. That's not a plan. That's just a benchmark. And I always ask people, what is your plan? What's your agenda for your town? What's your vision? That's not a vision. It's politically motivated, and I get that, but it's not helpful to the citizens in our town. They can move forward. So we may have to go through an exercise where people go to that level. If they want that, that's fine. But we're going to be back here again, because I will veto that. That, to me, is unacceptable to the citizens of Stratford. As mayor, that's my opinion and my belief. I want to thank everyone for being here this evening, but more importantly, reach out to your council members. Tell them where you stand. Let them know. Most of them are extroverts. They want to serve. They want to do the right thing, and I firmly believe that. A little added support and comments is always helpful. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I wish you all safe travels on the way home. Thank you for being here tonight.